Darling, darling, you're beautiful. Gotta keep your head up. Never let anything bring you down. Sunshine will always come around. Stay strong, move on. You have such a beautiful soul. Let your energy radiate.
Getting into easy pose, Sukhasana. And I'm just going to invite you to close your eyes or find a little spot on the floor. There'll be plenty of time to physically close our eyes in a bit, but I just want you to get acquainted with your breath. So, however, you normally get into your yoga practice or your meditation, if you feel you need to move anything around a little bit, rolling the shoulders back, maybe just moving the head from side to side, any little wrist circles that you'd like to do, and anything that just kind of helps you get a nice alignment with your back. So you want to have that nice S curve. So just sort of settle into that. And again, just listen to what your body needs. Feel the support of the ground beneath you. And I know it's easy to say not to alter your breath, but just find peace within it. Whether that's inhaling through the nose and exhaling through the mouth, or just listening to the sound of it as it passes through the sinuses or the back of the throat. See how that feels on the tip of your nose, tip of your tongue, maybe if you're breathing out through the mouth. And again, just coming into the concept for the practice tonight, which I've been hearing quite a bit about from my teachers. And I think that it's a wonderful continuum from the great conjunction that we had, which was our last full moon, coming into this new year, this new decade, and just the call for Saucha, which in Sanskrit translated means clearing, cleansing, or just bringing things down to a more simplistic form. It's also part of the niyamas, and it's part of self-care. But we can bring that concept also into not only our self-care, but into the space around us. And you're actually doing that right now just by breathing in and releasing out. So imagining that the inhale is sort of gathering up what you need, and that exhale is allowing you to release anything that's possibly not serving you, or just what you need to get rid of at this moment in time for your practice. So often I like to think of clearing and simplicity as decluttering or even distilling. So decluttering maybe is, again, removing what we don't need. Distilling is perhaps getting to that center, to that core, to our true self, and maybe to the things that really do matter. And then as we settle in to stillness, perhaps I can invite you now to close your eyes if they're not closed already, and experience that other D word that I consider part of clearing and simplicity and cleansing, which is the de-stressing of the mind and the body. Just allowing that feeling of emptiness. So imagining that distress is just sort of a weightless emptiness. And again, maybe the exhale invites you just a little bit closer to de-stressing. I'm just going to do a little reading from Mark Nepo's book of Awakening. And he likes to put quotes in each of his little chapters. And this one is from Lao Tzu. The topic is simplicity. I have just three things to teach: simplicity, patience, compassion. These are the greatest treasures. Simple in actions and in thoughts, you return to the source of being. So perhaps as you just indulge yourself with a few more breaths, start to entertain maybe that philosophy through tonight's practice, and just maybe freeing up some space emotionally and physically. When you're ready, keeping your eyes closed is perfectly wonderful for Sufi circles. I like to put my hands on my knees, again, just in an easy Sukhasana pose. If you want to uncross and recross your legs, please do so. And on the inhale, we're going to start to move forward. So we're leaning forward over the shins, as far or as not far as you desire. And maybe the chin comes up. And we start to move over to one side. I'm picking my left side. And then I start to exhale as I move back. So tucking the belly in, tucking that navel towards tailbone, really using my hands as leverage, pulling against my knees on that back part of the circle. And then as I come to my right side, inhaling as the chin draws forward, and just continuing these circles of breath, really like a circular cat-cow. Feeling the connectivity of both sits bones. So we want to make sure that we're not going too far over to the side. We don't want to be gripping too much on our feet to stay down. So if it's just tiny little circles to keep your stability, again, without gripping too much on the knees, making sure that we're staying in alignment with our little circular cat-cows. So really getting the full extension of the rounded back on the exhale, and a nice little curve, little tiny back bend on the inhale coming forward. And when you get to your next forward position, you're going to take it to the other side. So in my case, I'm going to be bringing it to the right, coming back to the left, and just really making sure that my head is engaged and involved. So maybe even on that exhale to the back, my chin is just drawing a little bit down towards my chest. Maybe my shoulders are moving forward, and on the inhale, maybe the shoulders move back. So that's this nice circular movement. And up until this week, when one of my teachers reintroduced Sufi circles to me, I had realized that this was something I had learned very early on in my yoga practicing. And I really enjoyed it so much at that time. And it was nice to just think about bringing it back. And that's an important thing about clearing and cleansing and simplicity. Sometimes we want to bring things back into our space after we've cleared out all the clutter. And we remember what was simple and enjoyable and maybe even beautiful to us. So I'm going to allow you now to just settle back in after your circles. We're going to take 3 cleansing breaths, preferably through the nose. If you'd like to create a little ujjayi, a little constriction at the back of your throat when you're breathing in through the nose, nice and filling up the belly. Really imagine that cylinder opening up and filling that torso, that chamber, and try to get as much air into the lower belly as you can. And then on the exhale, maybe a nice sigh or a little float of the lips. Maybe just a little sing song. And try that a couple of more times, breathing in feeling the air really connecting with the tip of the nose as it comes through the sinuses, hitting the back of the throat. Again, filling up that lower belly, the abdomen, maybe the rib cage even expands a little bit. And then just exhaling with a nice gust of air out of the mouth. And maybe on your third, or if you're already on your fourth inhale, even imagine that air coming into the lower back, mid back, upper back, really filling up again that canister, that torso, that balloon. And then a nice exhale out of the mouth as we just get a little bit more movement, maybe rocking back and forth. If you'd like to start to open up your eyes if they're not open already, and just kind of get some wiggles in there in the hips. And when you're ready, we're going to even rock back and forth. So from side to side, you'll go back and forward. And then when you're ready, if you can roll up onto your hands and knees, that would be great. Otherwise, figure out another way to get there. It's all good. And just checking on our alignment. So again, tonight is just reminding ourselves of the simplicity of our practice and just feeling that alignment. And suddenly we remember how much we loved certain simple movements. And in other cases, maybe we learn some of the good habits as opposed to some of the bad ones that sometimes we fall into. So we're going to get those arms and wrists right below the shoulders. And just to check the alignment, I'm going to invite you to turn your hands in, seeing if your middle fingers can make some connection. I'm a little bit vertically and height challenged, so my middle fingers don't necessarily touch. Just ergonomically, that's not possible for me. I would have to create too much of an angle if my fingers touched. So I'm going to get them to almost touch, and then I'm going to spin around on the heels of my hands so that my middle finger is facing forward and my fingers are really spread. Nice connectivity here. I even like to outwardly, I know I'm wearing a dark color here, but I like to outwardly rotate my elbows. So the inner elbow creases are actually facing straight forward in my table. I'm not sure what your table looks like, but see if you can feel the alignment. And then if you have a mirror nearby, or you can even see yourself on the screen, notice if you're forming some nice right angles, some 90-degree angles right there at the armpit to the torso. And then again from the torso down the thigh. And then we'll know that those knees are nice underneath the hips. And maybe in this case, we're just gonna curl our toes under. See if you can really press in and feel your pinky toes and just kind of get a nice press in there, really opening up the soles of the feet. And I'm going to invite you to look at your left hip. So you're looking over your left shoulder at your left hip, and you might want to sickle that left hip as if you could touch your nose. And then perhaps on the exhale, if that was an inhale for you, you're going to go to the other side and see if you can sickle your right hip to your nose as you look over your right shoulder. Again, keeping some nice buoyancy in the toes. We're going to inhale one side and exhale to the other. And again, just getting some nice movement into the hips, little fluidity, while still keeping that nice alignment of our tabletop. And maybe you go a little bit faster if you're feeling a little cool tonight. It's a little bit cold outside. Or maybe you're just winding down your night, you want to take it a little bit slower. You can handle the entire practice that way. So if I'm moving a little bit quicker in my verbal cues, feel free to go with your instinct, go inward and slow it down. And certainly if you feel you need to speed it up, be my guest. Settling now into our regular tabletop, we're going to take the left leg and we're going to reach it behind us. So that toe is going to point towards the ground. We're going to really imagine that we could take that heel and draw it towards the back of the room behind us. So nice activity there. We're going to lean into that left arm, again, keeping that 90-degree angle, and see if we can raise the right hand, palm facing towards the left, and really stretch out and feel the reach this time of the middle finger, pointer, ring finger towards the front of the room as that back heel draws towards the back. A couple of more breaths here, just getting a nice stretch, nice extension. And on the exhale, we're going to just tap it down in front of us. The right hand will tap in front, the left toe will tap behind. And then on the inhale, we're going to reach back up. Try it a couple more times here. Nice deep inhale, maybe through the nose, filling up that whole belly like we did before. Exhale, feel free to exhale through the mouth. Nice active pose here. Doesn't look like much, but it feels like a lot. When you're ready, we're going to exhale. We're going to just tap down one more time. Lift up for the last reach. One full breath here as we allow the knee and the hand to come back down to the mat, switching over to the other side. Right leg draws back, the right heel towards the back of the room, right toes pointing down towards your mat. And when you're feeling stable on that right side, you're going to lift the left arm and stretch and reach through the fingers. Couple of breaths again, through the nose, through the mouth. Almost feeling the energy as it moves through the body. A little bit of wiggles happening. I believe they say in Tai Chi, that's the chi, the energy leaving your body. And then we're going to exhale, tap it down. Inhale, rise it up. Go for a few more breaths here on that nice extension. And see what the face is doing. What's the shoulders? What's happening in the belly? As we reach, maybe drawing the belly towards the backbone. Nice core movement here. Exhale, we're going to tap it down one last time. Bringing it up, one full round of breath. On the exhale, bringing the knee and the hand back down into table. We're going to just put our toes together. I'm going to invite you to open up your knees for this child's pose. If that's super uncomfortable for you, no problem. We're going to sit back on our heels. So again, I'm going to bring my toes together. My knees are going to come out about the distance of my mat. And I'm going to slowly walk myself down into my child's pose. Of course, the other option is to bring the knees together and fold over the thighs. But just for this, let's see how close we can get to our support, to our ground. Maybe allowing just the hairline to touch the mat. And for you guys who are with me, that's probably within your practice. If anyone is joining us on the recording, I always invite a block to lean on with your head. You can also have maybe that blanket handy that I started out sitting on. And of course, I always like to keep some cushions around so that I can not only put my head on it, but sometimes it's nice to have it just between the legs if you're choosing an open-legged child's pose. And come down for your balasana. Again, taking some deep breaths in through the nose, exhaling through the mouth. We're going to go for 2 more rounds here of breath. Slowly pressing up into the forearms or the hands. We're going to walk the hands back towards the legs. See if we can bring our knees back together, curling those toes under. So we're somewhat in a table position again. We're going to take that left foot out to the back of the mat with the toes curled under, really engaging, again, that left pinky toe. Putting the weight into our hands, again, that nice 90-degree angle of the arms underneath the shoulders. We're going to press in to our hands and see if we can get that right foot back there for high plank. Just taking some breaths here, really holding that Kumbhakasana pose. And just seeing how that feels. Maybe lifting the belly towards the backbone. And if that's too much for you guys at home who are watching the recording, you can also come on your knees and just let them slide back a little bit. So maybe the toes are pointing back towards the back of the mat. Maybe the big toe are connecting. And we're holding our plank here. When you're ready, we're going to start to lift the hips up towards the sky, almost jackknifing that pose. As the heels draw back towards the mat, toes are pointing forward, heels are drawing back, fingers are pointing forward, heels of hands are drawing back. There's again that outward rotation that's happening in the arms. So that's taking a lot of the pressure off of our shoulders, allowing us to almost disperse that weight evenly amongst all 5 fingers on each hand. Your feet can be as close to your hands as is comfortable tonight. If you want to have a bent knee down dog is wonderful. You can lean that torso right on the tops of your thighs as you're taking your cleansing breaths. You can walk your dog, so maybe one knee is bent and the other is straight. Maybe it's not possible to get both heels towards the back of the mat. Maybe one at a time is more in your practice or within your reach. Maybe just imagining that you have a ball or a balloon right in the belly and it's rising up, almost allowing your whole belly area to float up. As the hips are held by strings like a marionette up towards the ceiling, that head just dropping down. A couple of more breaths and really feeling all the angles. When you're ready, we're going to look up between the hands. We're going to slowly tiptoe the feet till we arrive at the front of our mat, making any adjustments that you need to so that you're comfortable going into your forward fold. So for some of us, that might mean that our feet are hips distance apart. For others, we might want to just open up that stance. Again, you can always use the outer edges of your mat as a little guide. And then the idea again here would be to either bend the knees so that you're making torso, thigh contact. That's going to allow the crown of the head to maybe drop down. And if you could imagine your gaze coming right up towards your upper thighs, that chin is going to tuck down as you feel the weight of the head release. For those of you who are watching the recording and not as comfortable or as familiar with a forward fold, this is where blocks or even a piece of furniture comes in handy. Feel free to be on your fingertips in your forward fold. I like to grab opposite elbows and just sort of rock like a rag doll. And I really want you to feel that nice soft pull at the calf coming up the back of the thigh. See how the skin feels wrapping around the glutes. See how the skin feels down the whole spinal column. And as you're breathing in, imagine you can breathe in the spine. So perhaps the breath starts at the crown, entering in, going back up the whole length of the spine towards the sacrum. And on the exhale, coming back the way it came in, up the spine, out the crown of the head. Taking just a couple more breaths here. Really trying to just let everything hang loose. If you have chosen to put your feet a little bit further apart, maybe bring them now in towards hips distance. Another great measure is to take your two fists, to place them next to each other and line up the arches of the feet right next to each outer fist. That's a great way of just guiding your feet to hips distance apart. When you're ready, we're going to see if we can straighten out those legs and take our hands and press them to the front of the shins for a halfway lift. So here we can work with two different ways. We can either get a little back bend going, so maybe the gaze and the chin is a little bit forward, or we can allow the face to stay parallel to the ground where the crown is drawing forward, and that's more of a straight back. When you do this, you can actually press into the shins and those shoulders can really draw back. And if you could imagine drawing your head forward, you get a nice little pull here. Again, you can breathe in through the back. And I'd like to take it that route tonight. But again, if in your practice is a little bit more of a back bend and you want that slight little curvature at the lower back, I just caution you to keep that tailbone in your mind, if nothing else, drawing towards the ground and behind you. We're going to exhale and forward fold. And then when you're ready, we're going to rise. So 3 ways to rise. And maybe if you're used to normally rising a certain way, try something different tonight. You know, maybe you're a hinge riser. Maybe you like to do vertebrae by vertebrae. Maybe you're more of a root to rise where you like to press in to your feet with your bent knee and rise up to Urdhva Hastasana or upward salute. I'm going to take the pushing up. I'm going to raise my hands up for my Urdhva Hastasana. Feel free to put your hands in Anjali Mudra for a little back bend. Again, if we're doing this back bend tonight, try to draw that tailbone down towards the ground. It's going to give a little bit of a tilt in the spine. Your glutes might just tuck in a little bit, but it's going to protect that lower back so that you're not going too far and you're not going to smush everything we just opened up. All right. Exhaling, we are going to take those hands to prayer, bringing them down to the chest, finding our Tadasana. Now, Tadasana, your mountain pose, could be either feet together. So we're going to ground into those 4 corners of both feet as if it's one big foot. Some of us within our practice, that's a little uncomfortable. We like to go that hips distance apart, no problem, but just keep that 4 points grounded on each foot. Allowing you to draw energy from the earth through the arches of the feet. We're going to engage those knees, drawing them up. That might bring a little bit of work and tension into the thighs. That's okay. That's great. We want to have a steady and firm plant on the ground. And then maybe the lower glutes just lift a little bit. Again, we're going to tuck that tailbone down, drawing the belly into the spine, not forgetting to take those nice deep breaths, especially in Tadasana. It's beautiful to be able to take a nice inhale through the nose, fill up the lungs, fill up the belly. It's going to allow your rib cage to rise, your chest to rise to meet those thumb knuckles. And just try to get those shoulders to draw back. On the exhale especially. I like to draw my chin in just a little bit. Again, it makes me imagine that there's that string pulling from the crown of my head through the ceiling, through the roof line, into the sky, up to the universe. Very strong mountain pose. While you're just filling up your lungs and exhaling and releasing and cleaning out, emptying, letting go, could be a wonderful moment to set an intention for yourself, for tonight, for the week, maybe for the year. On the next inhale, arms rise up, hands still together. We're going to exhale, swan dive. So once again, I maybe like to take a little bit more of a hinge for my forward fold. And we're going to commence our sun salutations. So we're going to get a little half lift here again, dealer's choice. If you want to take a little arch or you want to straight back. Exhale, we're going to plant those hands down. We're going to take that left leg and step it back. So similar to what we were doing in our plank, except the one right knee is bent. We're going to look ahead. So that's going to be your inhale. A little bit of a shine of the chest there on the inhale. And on the exhale, we're going to take that right foot back.
Downward dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana.
Inhale, coming forward to that high plank that we were in before. Exhale, maybe bringing the knees first and then lowering, taking those elbows, drawing them back, lowering the chest, scooping the chin, allowing the belly to drop for low cobra. Maybe just start out that way tonight. If you normally go for a chaturanga, please do so. But I always encourage us to try a little something different. When you're ready, we're going to curl the toes under. Exhale, come right through the table, right up to down dog. Again, you can tippy toe up to the front of the mat for your forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift, Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale, forward fold, Uttanasana. Inhale, root to rise, coming up for upward salute, Urdhva Hastasana. Exhale, Anjali Mudra, Tadasana. Hands will come to the side on the exhale, and on the inhale, we're going to rise back up. Exhale, forward fold, Uttanasana. Inhale, Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale, forward fold again. This time, let's take the right foot back for that lunge. Again, shining the chest on the inhale. On the exhale, allow that left foot to come back for downward facing dog. Come forward to our plank. Knees, chest, chin, or chaturanga dandasana, whichever you prefer. I just want you to get the full extent and the full feeling of each of the poses as you move through your vinyasa. So here we're having a little bit of a back bend on the low cobra. Exhale, coming through table, lift the right leg up and step forward. As you come up for your forward fold, you can also walk yourself up to the front of the mat. We're going to inhale for a halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, rise it up. Maybe take a little back bend. Hands coming down to prayer, Tadasana. Just for a moment, as we exhale, hands come to the sides. Inhale, Urdhva Hastasana. Exhale, swan dive it down for Uttanasana, forward fold. Maybe allow that crown just to dip towards the ground a little bit before we press into our halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. And again, you can either walk your feet back into plank. You can step back. You can chaturanga dandasana. You can up dog for your inhale. Exhale, down the left foot up. And step it forward. Give a nice lunge there. Bring the right foot to the left, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, rise it up. Bringing all the energy into your chest for a little Tadasana. Inhale, rise it up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, pressing in for that halfway lift. Maybe shining the heart this time. A little bit of a back bend if you chose to do flat backs for the other ones. Hands are going to plant down on the exhale. And once again, you decide if you're going to take that right foot back for a lunge, shining the chest, stepping the left foot back on the exhale, down dog. Inhale, coming forward for plank. Exhaling, you decide, knees, chest, chin, chaturanga dandasana. Inhale, low cobra or upward facing dog. Exhale, rolling over the toes. We're going to take a look to the front of the mat. We're going to take that right leg up to the sky. We're going to bring the knees to nose. So you want to imagine that you can really bring your nose to your knee. Inhale, rise that right leg up to the sky. Exhale, bring that knee to nose. Inhale, one more time. And on the exhale, we're going to see if we can get that right foot up between the hands at the front of the mat. Feel free to use your hands to get you up there. We want to sort of be in a runner's lunge. So very similar to what we were doing in our sun salutations. Really getting some nice air back there in the back knee. Maybe we can get that right knee into the right armpit. And just hold this pose for a minute. Maybe the hands are out towards, again, the sides of the mat. So we're not right under our shoulders. We're a little bit out. Right hand is at maybe 2 o'clock. Left hand is at 10. Left foot is back there at 6 o'clock. Right foot is at the 12 high noon. And then if you can, see if you can press into that right foot and slowly rise and try to plant that left
heel
back on the mat. So the left ankle is going to go towards the back corner of the mat, and the left toe is going to try to point more towards the upper middle part of the left part of the mat. That's going to set you up for warrior two. We're going to lower into that right knee, really test that stance, see if that feels good. I'm looking at my reflection, and I can see that I'm not at a good 90-degree angle on the front knee, so I'm going to just shorten my stance a little bit. Take that right toe, pointing it forward. Right knee is really drawing towards the right of the mat. So we have a lot of things going on here, right? Right knee to the right, left hip to the left toe is pointing up towards the left middle part of the mat. And that's a lot of work going on right here. See if you can draw those thighs. Imagine that the inner thighs can draw together. That's going to create a lot of energy. It's also going to create a lot of stability. Taking the body, turning it towards the left, opening up your wingspan as if you're floating on water. Your chin is right there at the water line or just above. Maybe your arms are just below the water line. We're going to lean into that right knee for Virabhadrasana 2, Warrior 2. The gaze, or the drishti as we call it, is going to go over that right middle finger. I'm going to take that left hand, now slide it down the left leg, turn the palm up on the right hand, bring it up and over for peaceful warrior. I also call this Shanti Virabhadrasana. I've been told often that maybe that's not what it's called, but I kind of like it. Nothing wrong with a little peace in our warrior pose. Again, we want to be leaning into that right knee while not losing any breath here. So really opening up that right body. Trying not to collapse too much that left side. If you need to put that left hand on your left back hip to prevent yourself from going over too far, because again, we don't want to jam that lower back. We work so hard on opening it up. When you're ready, we're going to exhale. I'm going to take that that right forearm, and we're going to lean it onto the right knee. Now, for some of us, we can go down to the floor. Some of us can go on a brick. For tonight's purposes, I'm just kind of going simple, using my own body. Taking that left hand to the hip now. Going to look up towards the sky and raise that left arm up. We're at a side angle pose, and in order to make it an extended side angle, you can do one of two things. You can either sweep that arm like a full clock hand and take it up and over the head, or you can just bring it over to the ear. Sometimes that rotation in that shoulder, it just feels better to let it out and bring it back over the head. For me, sometimes that's the best way to do it. So really leaning in here, you're almost leaning back. That palm is facing towards the ground, and then we're going to turn it towards your back. So now the pinky, it's almost you can just come down and chop right into that floor. Really feeling the stretch from the fingers down the arm, armpit, left body, left hip, outer left thigh, all the way to the outer edge of that left foot. You should be finishing up a couple of breaths here, checking in on the face, checking in on anything that might be holding tension. And when you're ready, we're going to exhale, come back up for just a quick warrior two. And then we're going to windmill those hands and frame that right foot. Turning the foot now in the back, we're coming back up on the toes. Taking that right foot back, downward facing dog.
taking left leg up to the sky.
Exhale, knee to nose, really rounding the back, getting up on the balls of the right foot. Exhale, up to the sky. Inhale, up to the sky. Exhale, knee to nose. Inhale, one more up to the sky. Just exhale, we're going to take that knee, step it forward between the front hands, and really enjoy this lunge for a moment. So again, the left hand, if this was a clock face, the left hand will be at 10 o'clock, the right hand will be at 2 o'clock. We're going to lean that left kneecap into that left armpit. Really making sure that the alignment of our hips are nice, real nice air back in that right knee, really lifting it up. That's going to give us a little bit of buoyancy to press into that left foot as we rise and position ourselves on this side now for warrior two. I'm just going to flip over so you guys can see now the left knee is pointing out towards the left corner of the mat. The right heel is going back towards the back of the mat, but the right toes are pointing up, maybe around the middle of this mat on the right side. Taking the torso now, turning it towards the right, floating up those arms like we're on the surface of the water, leaning into that left knee, warrior two, Virabhadrasana two. Couple of breaths here as we gaze over that middle finger, feeling the shoulders draw back, maybe even purposefully just drawing our body back just a little bit. We don't want to be way over here. We want to be nice and stable. And a great way to check your stability and your centering, aside from drawing those inner thighs together, you can imagine you have a diagonal from your right shoulder to your left hip, from your right hip to your left shoulder. Where those diagonal lines meet at the center is your core, that's your strength, that's your stability. That's the center of which would be right above your pelvis. And if you can just imagine allowing yourself to fall into that X, the center of that X, it almost gives you that illusion that, yes, that is my stability. It's not an illusion, it's a reality. We're going to take the right hand, come down the right thigh, left hand again, the palm is going to face up and over for peaceful warrior. Try not to lose that bend in the left knee. Again, if you need to stabilize that back hip area, opening it up so that we're not collapsing on the right side. Couple of breaths here, peaceful warrior, really feeling that nice stretch on the back leg. Allow that head to just drop. And when you're ready, we're going to come up, taking that left forearm this time, leaning on the left thigh. Take the right arm up to the sky. That foot is still in your warrior two position in the back. That left knee is still drawing towards the left. You make the decision how you want to get that right arm up and over for an extended Utthita Parsvakonasana, extended side angle pose. Just breathing in, again, leaning back into it. Imagining that your chest is really just, like I said, shining up to the sky. Opening up, leaning in. And again, if you're using this recording at home, you can always grab onto a couch or any kind of prop that's going to allow you to kind of have this look and this feel, but at least you start to know what the body feels like in these movements. And really allowing yourself to inhale and exhale to create space. It's all about creating space, space between the left ear and the shoulder, space at that left body, even space right here in the elbow, and even in the back of the knee as we're bending in. Lift up, and that action happens again by pulling those thighs together, really grabbing in and finding that stability in that little semi-triangle you have, coming back into your warrior two just for a breath. Windmill our hands to the floor, step back to downward dog. I'm going to switch my sides again. So coming up from downward facing dog, get to the front of the mat however you choose. Some people like to hop. Some people like to tiptoe. And you certainly could take a big step forward. However you want to do it, we're going to get to the front of the mat. We're going to slowly rise up. Nice stretch overhead. And we're going to take it really simple here for our warrior one. For our warrior one, which is more of a neutral pose, we're going to take that left foot now. We're going to bring it back very similar to warrior two, except now the hips are facing forward. We're not going to be turning to the side. And maybe that left toe just points a little bit further to the left front of the mat. And that right leg, the knee is going to point straight ahead this time. So we're not going to draw it towards the right. That's not necessary. What we like to do is get in there as much as we can with that bended knee, and that's going to require some flexibility in the ankle. If keeping that heel on the mat with that toe almost pointing forward is just a little bit too much for you, it is okay to lift it slightly. Another option is you could just take the edge of a blanket and you could literally just use that for support and stability right there in your warrior one. So today I'm okay on that heel and haven't been driving lately. So my ankles are in pretty good shape. We're going to face forward and we're going to inhale. And when we inhale, we're going to draw that body up. So we're going to bring the rib cage, bring the chest, bring it up along with the hands on the inhale. So we're sort of in an upward salute, but we're leaning into our warrior one. Couple of breaths here, really opening up that hip flexor on the left, drawing that right thigh bone into the right socket. Couple of breaths. Some people like to do a little bit more of an arch. You can also bring your hands into prayer if you just want to open up the shoulder area a little bit, in addition to opening up the chest and the rib cage. Rising up now on the inhale, we're going to straighten that right front leg. We're going to take the left leg, if we need to, and bring it a little bit closer. So it's okay to shorten your stance on your legs at this point. Fantastic time to grab a block as we slowly start to hinge forward into our pyramid pose. So you might only be able to get to here. Maybe you have the help of a piece of furniture, or you can come up on your fingertips. If you can get that flat back, I mean, you're really there. The idea eventually will be to get the crown of the head to draw towards the ground, just like we were doing in our forward fold. However, this is pyramid pose. So again, I like to go on the flats of my hands, and I just slowly start to exhale, releasing all the air from the belly, drawing the belly up towards the backbone, really emptying out that chamber so that you can get that fold. And leaning the torso somewhat onto the thigh of that leg. And again, if that's not in your practice and you need to be on a block or one block in each hand, I'm going to demo you that while our folks that are practicing live with us are enjoying that nice forward fold. And maybe, you're right here. Maybe your elbows start to bend as the crown draws down. And feeling a nice stretch at the back right leg. Feel that skin on the right calf, behind the right knee, coming up that right thigh. Maybe even coming up around the glute. And seeing if you can actively draw those inner thighs together. That just gives you a little bit more energetic flow through your pyramid. When you're ready, bending into that right knee, moving any props off to the side. With that bent knee, we're going to take our hands and we're going to walk our hands to the left, to the long side of the mat. And then we're going to turn our toes to face that long side of the mat. Feet are parallel. And see if you can get a nice wide stance here. Again, whatever's comfortable. If you do want to bring one block with you, that's fine. And you can just lean on it. You can stay right here in a halfway lift. You can maybe rock back and forth. Just opening up the legs a little bit. Sometimes I like to come up on my heel, get a nice stretch in on each side. And just a little bit of movement before we take our wide-legged forward fold. Again, that might just be right here for you, halfway. If you feel that you can go a little bit lower and you want to move your block, for those of you who are kind of used to the pose, just allow that crown to draw down, maybe even lean on the block with the top of your head. You can also take hold of each of the ankles with your hands and draw that crown down. And the name of the game here is just like it is in down dog. We want to imagine that we have maybe a string or straps that are pulling the creases of our hips up towards the ceiling. We're going to concave or tuck in the belly towards the backbone. That's going to give us the space, the space to bring that crown as close to the ground as we can. Couple of breaths here in your forward fold. Really enjoying that stretch, not only at the back of the legs, but maybe even feeling a little sensation on the outsides of the legs. Maybe the inner thighs are also drawing together if you want a little bit more energy flow in your forward fold. Prasrita, Padottanasana, wide leg forward fold. And when you're ready, we're going to just take our hands again in front of our face, sort of like a halfway lift. Planting that left hand straight in front of our face on the floor, and take that right hand up to the right hip. Slowly, we're going to start to allow the chest first, not the gaze, but the chest to turn towards the right. Maybe feeling that right shoulder now drawing up towards the ceiling, that right elbow drawing up towards the ceiling, and maybe now our gaze follows up towards the ceiling. And you could take your twist and just stay right there, a couple of breaths. Or maybe you're feeling adventurous and you want to raise those right hands up towards the sky. The palm is going to face towards the right. Fingertips up towards the ceiling, towards the roof line. Imagining that crown is pulling straight in front of you. And when you're ready, take that right arm down. Plant that one in front of the face this time. Take the left hand to the left hip and start to turn that body. So we're using that right arm as leverage. Again, if that's too much for you and you'd rather be up here on the block and that's your twist, then that's your twist. You're getting some activity and energy in the inner thighs. Using those arms as leverage, making sure that that left elbow and left shoulder is coming up towards the sky. Never, ever, ever look first. You'll strain your neck. It's not worth it. Allow the body to turn. And then maybe the arm comes up. Couple of breaths. Really feeling the stretch. Nice long line from right arm all the way up left arm and then coming down. Now we can heel toe our legs a little bit closer together. Going in for a little squat, a little yogi squat, a malasana. For some of you, your heels may be able to connect to the mat. Again, if that's not happening, you can take that handy dandy blanket edge, get yourself in there, get the heels on there, almost like a little lady's little kitten heel, a little high heel. You take the toes and you spread them out just a little bit, and you can just sit right in there. Sometimes imagining that same diagonal line from hip to shoulders allows you to find the center of that X. And in your mind, you say, that's the center, that's the top of my pelvis. And you allow that intersection to draw down. You're actually bringing your tailbone down as well. So I can show you from the side. I'm going to do it with the blanket so you can see drawing that tailbone down. So you're almost sitting. Then what I like to do is I take my elbows and I press them into the inner parts of my knees. Taking my hands into prayer, I'm getting nice leverage. So that allows me to almost straighten out my back a little bit. So the crown of the head is drawing up towards the sky. The knees are drawing away from each other because the elbows are helping them and they're being pushed out by the palms of the hands. Maybe even the thumbs are making a connection to the sternum for malasana. And I'll show you from the front how that looks. And if you're super into this pose and you are an intermediate or you just want to have some fun, you can try to get into crow. I'm not going to teach crow tonight. I've done that in the past. And I'm definitely looking forward to this year offering little 20-minute segments on how to do certain poses. Everything from table to down dog to crow, to maybe some shoulder and headstands. And you can also try and take your twists here as well. So you can maybe draw that left hand just in front of the left foot. Again, pressing that left elbow into the inner left knee. You can reach up with the hand, again, allowing the gaze to follow the hand for a little malasana twist. I'm just switching sides. Not forgetting to breathe. I'm not going to give you breathing cues for this. Now is the time to start calming down the body. We've got one more side to do on our warrior ones. When you're ready, we're going to meet back in Malasana. Lifting the hips up. We're going to walk the hands over towards the back side of the mat just to change things up a bit. And when you're here, we're going to take that right foot, setting it up for warrior one. Again, the toes are going to point to the upper right side of the mat. Left toes are going to be to the front. Get your stability there as you rise up, reaching forward, lifting the chest, warrior one. Now, I have a little bit of a stiffer right ankle tonight, so I'm not going to be as low as I was on the other side. And that's totally normal. We're not always going to be even on both sides, but the idea is at the end of the practice, you might start to feel a little bit more equilibrium and balance. So even if each side isn't always the same, the goal is to maybe start to get there by the end of your practice. Straightening that left leg out, we're going to hinge forward for our pyramid pose. Again, adjusting the stance of the leg. We also want to be on railroad tracks for these. These are neutral hip poses, so the hips are just facing forward. There's no opening up or sides, just forward. So railroad track feet, coming down to our pyramid pose, allowing the crown to drop, taking maybe 5 cleansing breaths here. Again, coming in through the nose, out through the mouth. Really allowing the shoulders to also fall. How does the face feel? How do the eyes feel? Any tension in the cheeks, you can just draw down towards the ground. Any tension in the inner ears, maybe just allowing them to release as well. We're going to now take the hands and walk our way back to our wide-legged forward fold. We don't have to go as wide. We just want parallel feet. Hands are going to come to the hips. We're going to slowly hinge as we rise. Take a nice 5-pointed star stretch. So like we did in the beginning, we really want to draw and drive those heels into the mat and let those fingertips really reach up. Maybe the gaze comes to the upper corner of your room, drawing that belly in towards the back, maybe a little clench of the lower glutes. Rising the knees up, nice body extension, maybe even a little back bend. Making sure you're drawing the tailbone down towards the ground so we don't crunch up the lower spine. When you're ready, arms come down. We can walk the feet in together. Let's do a quick little tree pose, a little vrikshasana to end the night. We're going to come into our right foot. So nice and stable, 4 corners of that right foot, coming up on the left toe. Reach for a wall, reach for a piece of furniture, or just take that left heel, kickstand it right on the right ankle, on the inner ankle, and you're there. As long as that left knee is really pointing out towards the left. Finding stability, maybe even drawing that kneecap up on the right a little bit. As we draw the belly button in, rib cage rises up on the inhale. We can start here in Anjali Mudra. And again, if it's more in your practice to have your foot higher, you want to come up towards, I wouldn't recommend on your knee. I usually need a little hand assistance in order to get my left foot to press into my right thigh, left foot, pressing in towards each other. Hips staying straight, maybe finding a drishti about 6 feet in front of you. Coming from Anjali Mudra, rising up, maybe the hands stay together tonight. Really lifting up through the chest. Couple of breaths here for your vrikshasana pose. If you fall out, just be graceful in coming back into the pose. Don't rush anything. Don't be rash. And that's a really important cue for any kind of clearing or distilling that you want to do in your life over the next, couple of days, couple of weeks in the new year. Don't be rash with your decisions. Don't burst through anything like my mom used to say, a bull in a china shop. Take it easy. Be thoughtful, be kind to yourself, to your belongings, to the thoughts, to the ideas, possibly to the people that you might need to part from. If you want to open up the branches of your tree, come down, shake it out. I always like to do a little hip and dance move. I was thinking earlier today about coming up with a yoga practice that combines maybe some of my old Zumba and yoga. So if anyone's interested, message me and I'll work on something. In the meantime, let's get to the other side of our Vrikshasana pose. I'm going to take it to the calf this time, hands in Anjali Mudra, drawing all the energy from that left foot, the left arch of the foot, up through the lower leg, kneecap engaged, thigh, a little bit of the lower left glute, drawing the belly in towards the back, lifting up that rib cage, really making the breastbone rise to the occasion, rise to the thumb knuckles while we draw the shoulders back. Find that drishti, find that gaze that helps us balance. And again, taking the hands up overhead, being super thoughtful, super graceful. Maybe put a smile on our face. We're nearing the end of the practice. Drawing that right knee towards the right. Shoulders down away from the ears. One last reach of the chest. Inhale. Exhale, let those branches fly. Let that right leg kick out. Little bit of twist, little bit of turn, a little bit of shimmy. Let's get straight down to the ground. However you want to get there, get there. There's no magic. Take the right leg out to the side and the left foot, just the way we started in our tree pose. So a slight pressure with the left foot into the inner right thigh. We're going to take those right toes up towards the sky. And just make sure that we're in a nice position where our hips are connecting with the ground. Again, if there's a part that's lifting up a little, you can just take the edge of your blanket and stick it under there. And it just gives that little bit of additional stability. And I'm going to take advantage of that tonight. So we're going to inhale, rising up, palms facing each other, really lifting the chest, keeping that space again, tucking that tailbone. So we almost want a little bit of a tilt there. We're going to inhale, and as we exhale, we're going to turn towards the right. So we're getting a nice little opening on the left hip flexor there. Try and get that left foot into the right thigh. And slowly exhale, reaching over, reaching over. Now again, if this is as far as you can go, just see if you can let the head relax. Even if you're up here, just let the head relax. Not everyone is as loosey-goosey in the hamstrings as others. This is why I always keep a pillow, because from day to day, I never know. You know, it depends on what seated posture I took. This is my home office, so sometimes I'm sitting here on the mat doing work. Sometimes I'm up at my desk. Sometimes I'm curled up on my couch. And depending on that day is how my body feels flexibility-wise. So I always like to keep my props handy just because you never know. And then there's certain days where I'm just like, hell yeah, I got this. And I'm all in it and I'm all flexible. So that's a good day. But you know what? It's also a good day when I need a little help because I know that it's there. So again, getting into that fold. Couple of breaths, filling up the belly. Starting to bring down the whole tone, the whole temperature of the practice. Keeping those toes towards the ceiling, towards the roof line, towards the sky, up towards the universe. Breathing into any last tension that we're feeling. Right now, I'm feeling a little pull on my left lower back. Wasn't there before, but I'm feeling a little sensation. So I like to once again use my imagination to breathe into those areas. And again, to exhale through those areas, releasing any stress, emptying out those spaces. When you're ready, coming up, Switching over to the other side really gently. Again, I just went a little too fast. You really want to take care. Again, be graceful. Don't be a bull in a china shop. Left toes are going to point up towards the ceiling. And then we're going to take the right foot, pressing it to the left inner thigh. Again, reaching up. Inhale. Exhale, we're going to turn towards that leg, folding over. Just allowing the head to drop. Maybe the forearms touch the ground. Very similar to, in this case, my warrior one tonight. One side of the body just feels a little bit more amicable and pliable than the other side. Just a little different sensation. Not feeling any pulls on this side for me. Just really enjoying those last exhalations. I'm going to take 3 more cleansing breaths here. Maybe in through the nose, out through the mouth. I'm going to start to walk the hands back up towards the center, taking the left hand